Hey up everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. Today on the channel I'll be doing my tips and predictions for round 10 of the 2025 NRL season. Last week it were magic round and it weren't very magical when it come to the tips, for me anyway. Maybe for the audience out there, maybe you did better, but I got 4 out of 8, so not very magical for me. But hopefully in round 10 things can get better. So the first match to kick off round 10 is between Parramatta and Redcliffe, or the Dolphins if you want to call them that. This one's being played at the Western Sydney Stadium. With Parramatta last time out, they had a loss against Cronulla where they were competitive but just silly errors, shooting themselves in the foot. They bombed 2 tries as well. So look, they were competitive for the most part, but frustrating from a Parramatta point of view. With Redcliffe, they had a loss against Sydney Roosters where they weren't at their best either. They were kind of blown off the park there for most of the game. Now with these two sides, they've only ever played each other twice before. Both of them have been blowouts. The first one went to Parramatta. The last time these two sides played each other were last year in Darwin, where by memory Redcliffe scored, I think it was 8 tries in 25 minutes. Probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen in recent times, and obviously I was fuming, my blood was boiling as a Parramatta supporter, having to listen to all that on the radio. But this is a really tricky game to call, because since Mitchell Moses has come back for Parramatta, they have been better. And as for Redcliffe, well, they started the year poorly, then they strung a couple of wins together, then they had the loss against Canberra and now the loss against East. So this is, for me, it's a hard one to call. As a Parramatta supporter, I'm a bit confident that we can get the win over Redcliffe, but then there's just something about Redcliffe this year where they're hard to pick. So I think if I was a neutral, I'd go for Redcliffe, but for this game, I'm going to go for Parramatta to win by 1 to 12 points. I'm going to back the lads again. Hopefully this time they don't let me down, but we'll see how they go on Thursday night. First match on the Friday is between Newcastle and the Gold Coast. This one's being played at Marathon Stadium in Newcastle. With Newcastle, they sit 12th on the table at the moment. The Gold Coast are in second last. At Magic Rounds, Newcastle had a good win over a depleted South Sydney side. As for the Gold Coast, nobody was really expecting them to beat Canterbury, and once again they conceded close to 40 points, which isn't good. Going into this game with Gold Coast, they've lost 5 matches in a row in the league, and this has been a problem for a couple of years with them now, is that they just can't defend. Their defence is awful, and it's been shown a couple of times this year. Newcastle started the year good, had a really bad period there, then got the win over South, which will give them a lot of confidence. The head-to-head between these two sides historically is very close, but based off how the two sides have been playing recently, I can't go past Newcastle to win this game. I think it's going to be high scoring, even though Newcastle's had some issues in the last few weeks of scoring some points. I think it will be high scoring, but I can see Newcastle winning this game by 1 to 12 points. And the main match on the Friday is between South Sydney and Brisbane. This one's being played at Stadium Australia. South Sydney in 13th at the moment, Brisbane in 5th. Over the last few weeks, South Sydney have hit a brick wall, and a lot of that has to come from the injuries that they've sustained. They've lost 4 matches in a row in the league. With Brisbane, well, they've had some, as I've said in previous videos, they've had some good performances. They've had some shite performances. Last week at Magic Round from their own fans, not a very good result against Penrith there. With their build up to this week, there's been a lot of talk about Ezra Mam potentially returning back to the side, but it looks like he's not going to be there from the team list. South Sydney welcome back quite a few players for this game, although they're still going to be missing some of the others. I think because of how South Sydney have been playing, especially with the injuries, I'm leaning more towards Brisbane. It would be great if both of these sides were at full strength, especially on the Friday night, the main game, but we're not going to get that. So For this one, I'm going to go for Brisbane to win this match. I'm going to go for Brisbane to win this match by 1 to 12 points. And the first match on Super Saturday is between Canberra and Canterbury Bankstown. This one's being played at Bruce Stadium in Canberra. Canberra in second at the moment. Canterbury Bankstown top of the table. Coming into this match, Canberra's won 5 matches in a row in the league. And Canterbury Bankstown have only lost 1 match so far this season. This is definitely a game of the round and potentially one of the games of the season so far. Both teams in great form. With Canberra, they had that dramatic win over Melbourne at Magic Round, and Canterbury Bankstown had a routine win, you could say, against the goalposts at Magic Round. So both of these sides coming into the fixture with a good win. Both of these teams have been some of the form teams in the competition so far in 2025. It's, I mean, the time slot that's been given for this game, it's not probably the best one, but it's obviously the draw comes out before the season starts, so we don't know what's going to happen throughout the year. But this is a really hard one to call. I know that a lot of tipsters are going to be sat on the fence. Some people are going to go for Canterbury, some people are going to go for Canberra. Based off what I've seen so far this season though, I mean going week to week, it's really hard to look past Canterbury, if I'm being perfectly honest. A part of me wants to tip Canberra, but especially with Matt Burton coming back into the Canterbury Bankstown side, I'm going to go for Canterbury Bankstown to win this game by 1 to 12 points. Although I wouldn't be shocked if Canberra win this game either, so I think it's going to be a smashing game, but I'm going to go for Canterbury to win by 1 to 12. Second match on Super Saturday is between St George and New Zealand. This one's being played at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. St George in 10th at the moment, New Zealand in 3rd. Coming into this game, St George's form hasn't been that good. They lost at Magic Round against West Tigers. It were a game of fine margins because the big talking point was the Jaden Sewer bomb try, and St George, they lost by 6 points. So it's a game of fine margins, rugby league sometimes, and you know, just them key errors at key moments can really cost you. They did well to fight back in that game, but they went down by 6 points. As for New Zealand, they were cruising against North Queensland, and then I don't know what happened, they put the cue in the rack. North Queensland come back and almost stole the game. But New Zealand coming to this fixture having won 3 matches in a row in the league. They're looking good. However, if you're a St George supporter, one thing that will give you a bit of confidence is the fact that, according to NRL.com, New Zealand's only ever won 2 matches at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. I don't know if that's 100% correct, but they've only won twice there. And the head-to-head record favours St George as well. So, for this game, despite that hoodoo at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong, I am going to tip New Zealand to win this game. I don't know if it's going to be 13 plus, so I'll stick with 1 to 12. I'll go New Zealand to win 1 to 12. And the third and final match on Super Saturday is between North Queensland and Penrith. This one's being played at Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. North Queensland in 9th, Penrith in 15th. Last time out, North Queensland had that narrow loss against New Zealand. They did great to come back in that second half, nearly stole the game. As I mentioned, game of fine margins. Murray Tulungi just outside the field of play when he was putting the ball down. And with Penrith, once again, ruining me tips for how many weeks now? You tip them, they lose. You tip against them, they win. That's how it's been all year with Penrith for me. They were great against Brisbane. Some of their players looked like they were back in form. Also, like a big in for them is Brian Toto's back in the side, and although he's a winger, he does a lot for the Penrith side, especially getting the meters up the field in the, you know, the sets and stuff like that. Also, Mitch Kenny's back in the side. Penrith's record in Townsville isn't the best. They've only won twice at the new venue since it opened. Before this match against New Zealand, North Queensland's form was great as well. They'd won 4 matches in a row in the league. It's a really tough one to call, this one. I think this is another one where people are either going to go one way or the other. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to tip North Queensland to win. I'm going to go North Queensland to win by 1 to 12 points. mainly because of the fact it's up there in Townsville, the heat, all that caper. But I don't know. I've said a couple of times this year, Penrith are back, and then the next weekend they put in an awful performance. So I'm going to go for North Queensland to win this game by 1 to 12 points. And the first match on the Sunday is between Melbourne and West Tigers. This one's being played at Amy Park in Melbourne. Melbourne in 4th, West in 8th. Last time out, Melbourne had that disappointing loss against Canberra in Magic Round. Trent Liero, he had a Paul Cabbage moment, you could say. Or 2 Paul Cabbage moments. I don't know what he was thinking there. Off with the head, on with the pumpkin, as they say. And that pretty much really cost Melbourne in the end. As for West Tigers, they had a good lead against St George and were nearly pegged back in the end, but they got the win up their Magic Round. Now they face the daunting task of having to go down to Melbourne and play down there, especially after Melbourne's had a loss. And I've said it time and time again on my channel throughout the years, Melbourne rarely lose 2 games in a row. Generally, when they lose a game, the next time that they come out and play the opponent, they flog them. So West Tigers are going to have to be at their best, I think, to even compete with Melbourne, because Melbourne are very tough to play down there at the best of times, and when they're coming off a loss, well, Craig Bellamy fucking flogs them at training, and I'd hate to be in one of them video sessions after a loss if you're playing for Melbourne. So I'm not going to say that West Tigers have a 0% chance of winning, but it's quite low, I think. I will go Melbourne to win this game, and I can see them winning this match by 13 plus, so I'm going to go Melbourne 13 plus. And the final match to close out round 10, it's the Battle of the Beaches, Manly Warringah against Cronulla Sutherland. This one's being played at Brookfield Oval. With Manly, they're sitting 7th at the moment, Cronulla in 6th. Last week, Manly had the bye, so they'll be fresh coming into this fixture. As for Cronulla, as I said at the start of the video, they had a win over Parramatta. However, I think if Cronulla were playing against a better team, they might have lost that game, or it might have been a lot closer, because as I said, Parramatta bombed 2 tries in that game, and they gave away, a lot of ball and penalties and all that caper. So, as we all know, Battle of the Beaches, it's very one-sided historically. Manly Warringah dominate this fixture over Cronulla. However, in recent times, Cronulla's kind of pegged it back a little bit. Their record at Brookfield Oval isn't great, to say the least. And the head-to-head, as I said earlier, is in Manly's favour. With this fixture, I think because Manly have the week off as well with the bye, their players are going to be a lot fresher, and there's a big turnaround from when they last played as well. Before they had that win over Penrith, they did fall into a little bit of a hole, Manly, but they did have a good win over Penrith. This is a really tough game to call as well, because Cronulla have been pretty good this year. Manly have been good, bad, and then good again, and then bad again, and good. I'm going to go for the home side. I'm going to go for Manly Warringah to win this match. I'm going to go for them to win this match by 1 to 12 points. So those are my tips for round 10 of the 2025 NRL season. I'm appearing in front of the camera for this video because over here it was Bank Holiday Monday, so I were out with family and doing some other things, and then today working. So I didn't really have time to do a proper video where I do all the research and the pictures and all that caper. But I hope that you enjoyed this video anyway. I do these videos from time to time if I don't have a lot of time on my hands. I just be in front of the camera and just do the tips that way. But let me know who you're tipping in the comment section below. Let me know the margins and all that caper. And thanks to everyone that tuned in for my video last week. I got well over 2,500 views and a lot more subscribers. So thanks to everyone that's tuned in and supported the channel. Anyways, this has been Rugby League History, and I'll catch you all later in the next one. Alright, ta-ra for now.